Hello and welcome to Development Reimagine's Decolonizing video series. My name is Sena Voncujovi and I'm a Research and Policy Analyst at Development Reimagined, and later in this video I'll be joined by my colleague Rugare Mukanganga, our Economist Consultant. In this series, we seek to provide an insight into what it means to decolonize development. What results will this have? What does this change look like? How do we, in all parts of the world, be it racial, gender, disciplinary, social, or other backgrounds, drive change? We've seen that development, health, and humanitarian organizations of various sizes are reflecting, becoming more transparent about these issues, and recognizing that they need rebalancing. But what next? How do we change a buzzword into real, tangible action? If you don't already know, Development Reimagined is a leading independent and African-led international development consultancy with our headquarters in China and with offices in Kenya and the UK. Our mission is to provide new ideas and solutions to deal with the complexities of global poverty and climate change, and it's a mission our diverse team really strives for every day. For this session, I'm very excited to have our distinguished guests, Dr. Lili Lai and Dr. Diarra Boubacar, who will share some insights on one of the key themes of what it means to decolonize development in the field of indigenous resurgence. But first, what do we at Development Reimagined mean by indigenous resurgence? We define indigenous resurgence as using and promoting local knowledge and local methods as development solutions, rather than imposing ideas or solutions from the outside. But how exactly can indigenous knowledge be leveraged to solve present challenges? Dr. Lili Lai is currently an associate professor in the School of Health Humanities at Peking University. Through the lens of cultural anthropology, her research examines cutting-edge medical technology as well as the knowledge systems of traditional Chinese and ethnic medicine, offering multiple interpretations and analyses of the basic concepts of medicine, the body, health, knowledge, and practice. She is the author of Hygiene, Sociality and Culture in Contemporary Rural China and Gathering Medicines, Nation and Knowledge in China's Mountain South. She has published more than 30 papers in academic journals around the world. Our second interviewee, Dr. Diarra Boubacar, is a traditional Chinese medicine expert from Mali. My colleague Rugare will introduce him to us.
Dr. Diarra hails from Mali, West Africa, and has been in China since 1986, reading the similarities between African and Chinese medicine. Dr. Boubacar started out in general surgery, but grew to love traditional Chinese medicine and switched his focus. He holds an MSc and a Ph.D. in traditional Chinese medicine and has been practicing traditional Chinese medicine for over 30 years. Dr. Boubacar is also the medical editor for the book The Tao of Healing, Christian Perspectives on Chinese Medicine by Dr. Pak Lai, published in 2018 by Graceworks. Dr. Boubacar is fluent in Chinese and currently works in both public hospitals and teaching hospitals in China, working to treat the ill and spread Chinese and African traditional treatment methods. As persons with backgrounds in both traditional Chinese medicine and contemporary medicine, Dr. Lai and Dr. Boubacar are the perfect persons to help us understand what indigenous resurgence is and why this matters today in the context of global health. In your opinion, what do you see as the key differences or similarities between African and traditional medicine?
But when men or these people in the community, they start living, and in their daily life, they come across with some problems. And then they try to look at it in the environment, in the nature, to find things who can help them. So it's the same in Africa, in China, in doesn't matter, in India. I think it's the same. So all these medicines start in the context to help people to be in harmony with their own body and to be in harmony with the nature. or to be harmony with heaven, earth, and the environment. So this is very common to all of this medicine. And another thing I found was herbal medicine, plants. Because these are very natural things we can use. So in China here, they are using herbal medicine, and in Africa also, we have been using. My grandfather was a herbalist, specialized in our traditional medicine. So he was using a lot of plants to treat people. So this is also something similar I can see in both in Mali. There is a kind of like a bleeding. But this bleeding is a little bit different from the way the Chinese practice. The way the Chinese practice is mostly like a needle, they point and then let this blood bleed or come out. But in Mali, what I saw that is a kind of small knife. They use, like a scrap, and then they can let it bleed. So there are some similarities, but also, of course, the great difference in all of this medicine.
In your opinion, what counts as credible medical knowledge today, and how has colonialism or Eurocentrism contributed to this?
Since I have a background in Western medicine and also in Chinese medicine, for me, it's not really means which one is good or which one is bad. No, Western medicine only have less than 200 years in China, and before that, the Chinese people, the culture is about 4,000 to 5,000 years. So it's that medicine the Chinese have been using for more than 4,000 years to treat themselves before they have this Western medicine. So I think from that I can say that all medicine have their own value, and it's our duty to go to see what's good on that and then to use it. We cannot say no, because your medicine is more like primitive. I remember there was a missionary who described people doing kind of surgery, cesarean, on a pregnant lady in Africa 300 years before we have the same kind of surgery in Europe. When we talk about immunization, in China, the first kind of immunization against measles came 500 years before the British came out with this chickenpox immunization. It's documented in China here. I'm talking also about surgery. The first surgery documented in the world is done by Huato. And he did it with anesthesia. And his anesthesia was a cup of herbal medicine prepared. He gave to the patient before he operated on them. This medicine name was Mafusan.
In your view, what are some of the ideological, political, and perhaps economic barriers that stood or still stand in the way of this indigenous medical knowledge resurgence?
Yes, I think the deepest problem is again, your wonderful title, Development Reimagined. We need to reimagine the world in terms of plurality. It's a pro-reverse, not universe. the global health is also kind of form of global aid. It's kind of from the first world countries parachuting the medical aid to the developing countries, to third world countries. And it's still kind of condescending attitude. And it tends to ignore local condition and local resource, which is already ready for people, already there, including herbs and remedies and long history of local medical practices. We need to have a plural global health instead of one global, because global health actually it has a middle term, global biomedical health. To put in another way is it's not, because for biomedicine and also for Western science in general, they don't consider the word is plural. They think it's only one word because they don't think our way of dealing with the body count. It's only culture. It's only something secondary. And the hardcore, the nature, the body is biomedicine claim that knowledge. And the other knowledge, it's not count. So that's the deepest problem. And if we can understand, or we can persuade biomedical people also understand it's not universal body. It's not this only one word, multiple nature, one nature, multiple cultures. Actually, there are multiple natures. Nature is in plural. And biomedicine deal with one kind of body, but it's not omnipotent.
So our medicine is treating the person. Our focus is the person, because we want to bring the person back in harmony with himself, his community, with heaven and earth, and with nature. So our focus is the person. But in Western medicine, the focus is the cause of disease. Is that a virus? We kill it. Is it the bacteria? We kill it. Is it a cancer cell? We try to destroy it. I don't care about them.
How would you say African traditional medicine can learn from Chinese traditional medicine, and the other way around? How would you say Chinese medicine can learn from African medicine? And how would we integrate this kind of knowledge into the pharmaceutical industry to transform it going forward?
So when I was in Mali, I saw my grandfather. So he was helping people with herbal, a group of, he goes on the forest, bring his medicinal plants, and he give to a patient. He said, okay, take this, go boil it, drink, and then use the rest to wash. Take a bath with it. So the same medication, you take and use the rest to bath. So in China here, I think I use this method because even in China there is also similar thing like taking bath with herbal medicine. So I'm doing that with my patient, and I found great results. And now this idea has been going through my students, the overall doctors I come across with in our hospital. And what I saw now, many people are using these techniques, but it's not really initiated, it's not really coming from Chinese idea. Chinese idea, the one they use to take bath is different from the one they drink. So I broke this idea. So I think it's something the Chinese medicine can learn, and they learn from at least I can say from African medicine. Okay, but something also we can learn also from Chinese medicine, a lot. First, documentation. My grandfather passed away. Only, I can say, even not 10% of his knowledge were, passed on to the next generation. It's very sad. And that's why Senghor, in Senegal, he was saying that each elderly people who die in Africa is similar to a old library burned up in Europe. Of course, in Egyptian medicine, they do have some record there. In Mali, in the north, in Timbuktu, we do have some, but all gone. These were terrorists. So, you see, that's something the new generation now, the next generation have to do, to work on. And something also we have to learn, and this is very important, the way they are developing the medicinal plants. In all Africa, we have about more than 6,000 medicinal plants. In China, we only have about 4,500. We have more than that. But if I can talk for Mali, we have one institute of African Traditional Medicine Research Center in Mali. I think it's the first one in the continent. We only have so far, we only have less than 10 kinds of products. You see, and in China here, how many kind of medicine, drugs we have for blood? We even cannot name them. Thousands. So we have to learn how to develop this, to industrialize them, to bring it to the market, and then to try to see how to make it more productive and also to help people. And another thing Chinese people are doing, we can also learn how we can product our plants. Because the villagers are cutting, is going, and nobody is planting.
What does it mean to decolonize health within the context of Chinese medicine and other indigenous or minority medical traditions? And are there any practical examples that you can share with us?
Because the word I really want to use is diversity. And to embrace diversity, we need to think also critically of colonizing and decolonizing. And a very recent example would be during the COVID era, that there is a niche for Chinese medicine, because when biomedicine has very little strength, for example, at the beginning of the COVID, and then there's people have so little knowledge of it and didn't know what to do with it. And then Chinese medicine showed some efficacy and showed its strength. And then people started to kind of recognize it and accept it. But still, it's a pity. Quickly, huge interest, huge money still was put in biomedicine, and then people quickly turned attention to biomedical practices. Because if they claim this monopoly of health, and then it's a huge profit, they don't want Chinese medicine to take part of it. So that's also something need to be recognized. Then that also has to do with the power and then how we can work better with, if the government is really for people's health, is for lower the cost, and the traditional medical practice is the way to go, and need to struggle to fight with the huge pharmaceutical companies. In China, the government already started to do that, hugely lower down the cost of the drugs used in the hospitals. It has been causing huge pain to the pharmaceuticals, some Chinese pharmaceuticals. But if we can go back to our research in Southwest China in the grassroots level, we can see traditional medicine has close relationship with people's everyday lives. That's also what I really want to say. When we were talking about decolonizing, maybe we were talking at a grand level. We're talking about almost at a state level, at institutional level. But when we really look at everyday life, people are still actively engaged with Chinese medicine, with traditional medicine.
We thank both Dr. Lili Lai and Dr. Diarra Boubacar for their thoughtful contributions to our understanding of indigenous resurgence with helpful examples involving their expertise in traditional Chinese medicine.
Dear watchers, thanks for staying with us. Maybe you can promote or implement the ideas they shared here in your organizations, from being more pluralistic to focusing on the person to finding ways to incentivizing planting more local medicines. So see you again in our next video series.